everyone. Welcome to Subconscious Sundays. I am your host, Reverend April Kling Meyer, and with me, as always, is my fantastic and favorite friend, Timothy Freeman.
Hi. Awesome to be here.
Are you hearing a bit of a delay?
I don't know. I don't think so. Are you?
It's very odd. So, I'm hearing a horrible delay. Hang on just a second. I think I know what's going on. I had our stream open in a different window. So moving on. Technical difficulties. Please
Yeah.
stand by. Thanks
Yeah,
for joining us.
the miracles of modern technology, and we all are having to navigate that all the time
Yeah.
now.
Let's try this again. Hi, everybody. It's me, your host, Reverend April Kling Meyer. And with me, as always, is my very favorite friend and co host, Timothy Freeman, hypnotherapist. And I am here to tell you all about desire. And Tim is going to take you through a guided journey all about desire as well. This is an exciting episode for me, anyway. I hope it's exciting for you as well, Tim.
Yeah, it's a very rich topic that kind of impinges upon everything in our life in some way.
Yes, in fact, the commentary echoes exactly that. And we'll get to that in just a moment. But there's always one little thing we like to do before that, and that is set our intentions. So,
Yeah, so we like this to be a fun and entertaining, or at least laid back way to discuss potentially serious and heavy topics that are pertinent to all of us.
yes, and we remain open and inviting, welcoming to those of you who have questions or ideas to respectfully bring them into the conversation. We keep the comments open when we're on the live viewing, and we also keep them open in the rewatch. So your comments are always welcome.
Yeah, and this is a weekly ritual for us where we love to gather our shared community in a virtual sacred space here to just talk about our human experience here and share some of our knowledge.
And we love to hear your response as always. And we ask that you remain respectful of everyone's individual journey, just as we are. We stay rooted in compassion for ourselves and others. We promote growth and expansion, and we are here to create a supportive community. Welcome. And that wouldn't be a thing if it weren't for you joining us today. I see that we have more than usual people watching today, so I'm excited about that. And it's a good topic. And I want to dive right in now into what we're going to be talking about and what is being talked about on the topic of desire. In what ways does desire factor into the decisions you make? So I put this on Facebook. Usually I do it on Wednesdays. This week I did it on Thursday because it's just been a crazy week. I just finished my first of 2 years in my master's program and had to submit a paper. So everything had to just kind of wait until I could get that done. And I finally did. Yay, go me. And
Congratulations.
anyway, so it was Thursday this week, but almost every week I have the question placed on my personal Facebook page on Wednesdays for you to engage with. And this week it was this one. So Michelle answered totally. Yeah. And Aaron answered all conceivable ways, I'd say. So desire factors into people's decisions totally in all conceivable ways. I asked Aaron to kind of drill down a little bit more. Again, he did not, but I'm just glad that people are coming in and responding at all, really. And Jill, who is really good about commenting very regularly. Thank you, Jill. I've never had trouble seeking, asking for, or working for what I want. That's great. That's great. And then Kat has a similar sentiment. Desire is the alpha and the omega of everything I do because I only do stuff I want to do. And knowing Kat, I mean, she's been able to just completely structure her life around being able to do what it is that she wants. And she's had a really cool career filled with lots of great ambitions and fun side projects, super creative person, just as Jill is, like really super creative people we just talked about, like all four of them. So these are people who are actively engaged in creating the life that they want and are able in all ways to do that and in all ways to pursue what it is they want, which is quite ideal. Heather is weighed in by saying when it comes to textiles, everything. Now, I want to just mention before I go into the next comment that I come from a world, many worlds, but I come from a very particular world back in Texas when I used to live there, when I actually owned a fabric shop for 2 years. Tim knows that. And so my whole world was surrounded by textiles, fabrics, fashion, people making things. And a lot of these people that we're talking that have commented today have something to say about that. And then the reason why I mention that is because then Melissa comes in and says, yes, I've been researching sewing machines for days, what I desire to having one. So they're just, it's important to note that even in just like selecting things that you need to do your job, desire factors into that, you know? And then Lacey mentions a highly creative person here. Sometimes my desire keeps me from making decisions. I'm so glad she said this because I put too much expectation, pressure on said desire or desired outcome, and I get scared of failing or succeeding. Super, 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 super important. So important. And I wasn't even going to talk about that, but since Lacey put it in there, it's in the field. So thanks, Lacey. Now, this is the final comment I'm going to bring into the conversation. I think it's super important too. Don says 0 because of practicality and necessity. Now, I asked Don for his explicit permission to discuss why that is the way it is for Don, and he said it was okay. So otherwise, I wouldn't be so personal here. But Don is suffering, and it is really important to acknowledge that there is not always a way to be in pursuit of one's own desires. There are absolutely limitations, and there are limitations that are really difficult and regretful to get to. And I feel for Don because I too have experienced that set of limitations that doesn't always allow me to get what I want. And I've also been in a dynamic with a desire, and I think everyone has, if they're honest with themselves, where I didn't get what I want and had to enter into a massive amount of grief to overcome that. And I don't want to go into too much detail, but I'm just now in my life kind of getting over a stage of that grief that I actually like not getting what I want or life not turning out the way that I thought it would. Like sometimes when that is suppressed for a really, really, really long time, the grief just gets really festered. And when you finally have an opportunity to experience that grief and express it, which is the case for me for the last few years, it just feels bottomless, feels like it's never going to end. I'm here to tell you that if that is a dynamic that you're having with desire, aka grief, that there is an end to that grief. There is a bottom you will find with it. And I want to bring into the fold a little bit. I mentioned that I would do this last week when we talked about vision and the dynamic around vision last week was that there was this goal at the bottom of an impenetrable, immovable rock. And that outcome, which is what Lacey brought into the conversation, is kind of like this desired outcome, and that goal that at the bottom of the rock is not ever really going to be something you're ever going to be able to get, but it's something that you want to strive for. And that was an analogy from a philosopher that Peter Rollins brought into the conversation when he did his movie How to Make Love, which is again is not about sex. It's a very sensual movie, but it's not about sex. It sounds like it would be. And he brings in another dynamic, another like analogy to talk about this dynamic as well. And it's the woman, the chaperone, and the idea being that the chaperone is what creates the desire for the woman. of and the desire the woman has for the man, that chaperone creates this tension that, like, when you want, that it makes that outcome that you desire one, it actually creates the desire, becomes the thing that creates the desire in and of itself, not being able to have it. And I want to contrast that. Oh, and he, I wanted to also bring in, sorry to keep talking about sex, but I also want to bring in the idea that um, he named purity rings as this example of something that like makes sexuality more appealing to young people is by wearing a purity ring, because then it's on your finger all the time. You can't stop thinking about it. But I want to contrast that a little bit with the idea that from Esther Hicks, that like um wanting is evidence of having. And we've talked about this on previous episodes as well. The idea that if time really is nonlinear, and we're always existing, some future past self is coexisting with us in the present, and we're just not mentally capable of detecting this or being able to see past linear time. Then if we want something, that in some timeline, in some version of the universe out there, we have it already. And that's in direct contrast to what Peter Rollins says, but there's something paradoxical there, right? Like that, to have is to want, or to not have is to want at the same time. But both are true in a lot of ways. And I want people, I don't want this to be a vision conversation, because that's very much last week's topic. But the idea that we have desire in our lives is a complicated thing that we have to grapple with as people, as human beings throughout our lives. I'm an interfaith minister. I'm an ordained interfaith minister, and when it comes to how desire works into our religious beliefs, we look at Christianity, and we see that desire is this complicated thing, and like culturally speaking, not really doctrinally, but culturally speaking, desire is something that we're supposed to kind of really keep an eye on, because like we associate that with temptation, and we associate temptation with the devil, which is evil. And then all the way over in the eastern side of the world, we think of desire in Buddhism as something that we're supposed to, like, it's also the portal to complete samsara, which is like, you know chaos, disaster, and that desire is that portal that makes us suffer. So I'm here to tell you that there are other interpretations of that. And I don't want to sound like, um, a terribly,
Revisionist.
I'm not trying to break the rules of your religious beliefs or anything like that, but I am here to tell you, you can look at this at different angles. The desire is not inherently bad. It's your own intrinsic relationship with desire that can make or break you, to put it in very simple terms. This idea that desire is bad in and of itself is something that maybe we should put into question. And we should think about how, when we talk about being like ego identified, we think about like how we identify ourselves, like what the core self really is, which is a great amount of what we talk about on this show. When we identify with our desires, I think that's when our ego becomes tied into desire, and we start to identify with the ego. That's where it starts to be a bit of a problem, because we have this idea that we are somehow less of a person, less of a whole self, if we do not have what it is we desire. We also get into this dynamic of lack, like I am nothing, or I am not complete without this thing. I believe that's where we get into problems when it comes with desire. My own particular path with this, my own journey with desire, it has been to break that programming for the last few years, because I have been sweeping in all of these different spiritual beliefs throughout my life to see what works for me. And I've definitely got to a point in my life where I thought if I want something, that I should like cleanse that desire from myself in order to feel fulfilled, or and really, it didn't really get me anywhere. It kind of created that chaperone, if I'm being honest. It created that tension of like making me want things more than I actually would have if I would have just acknowledged, I want this. I want this. And I really started to, in the last few years, kind of go, well, why is it that I want this? What is it that I feel that I lack in my life that I can't just give to myself? What is it that this desire represents for me? And what are the egoic dynamics of that desire? Like, what is it that my self sees as separate and not complete without the thing that I want? It has really changed the way I see myself. It's really changed the way I see my ambitions, my goals, my dreams. And it's also changed the way that I work with desire. And I know that this season's kind of similar underlying theme has been manifestation. And I want to tell you about another paradox with manifestation is that I have found that this questioning of where desire comes from, what makes it egoic, am I creating a chaperone situation for myself that's enhancing, exotifying the desire, making it more appealing to myself? I will say that putting that into question rather than trying to cleanse it from myself, from my soul, I would say just interacting with that desire and asking that desire questions and being open to the fact that desire exists and not trying to get rid of it, but actually kind of working with it and finding out what it needs from me has actually caused me to manifest better.
So, okay, this is really interesting, April. You're kind of flipping it and saying, um, by the way, P.S. We both separately kind of looked into this topic and didn't really compare notes on
Right. Double
this
blind. Totally
before
this time.
today, which is
Sort of intentionally.
awesome because we've really landed as you're sharing, all of this. We've really landed on the same spot in a lot of cases. But one thing that I find really interesting in what you're saying is like instead of the question of like why do I have this desire, um, you kind of flip that on its head. It sounds like where you're saying that why not why do I have this desire? Is it kind of ego? Is it my higher self? But why is this desire coming into my life? Is that the question really? Like I want to really get to what you were saying and how you work with desire because I thought it sounded really interesting.
It's one of the questions that I ask. Why am I having this desire? What is it that I am perceiving that I lack? What is it that I can give to myself that fulfills that lack if there's for some reason I'm not able to get whatever it is I want? I also ask myself, if I get what I want, am I going to be satisfied? If I get what I want, is it really going to be what I want? And that right there, I think, is the real magic question. And then, okay, so Bear, I wanted to bring in Bear's comment because she says, desire blinds me to recognizing all I am and all I have. So I try to avoid entertaining it. That effort helps me see more clearly. So what Bear is saying here is that she sees kind of like an automatic wholeness that sounds to me like she didn't use the word gratitude, but it sounds to me, and correct me if I'm wrong, Bear, that you have this dynamic of wholeness, this dynamic of gratitude, and that you kind of see desire as like a distraction from that gratitude, from that wholeness. By the way, our next topic is gratitude. Tim came up with that. We've got to do one. We've got to do one on gratitude. And then James says, linking desire and ego, yes, and from a point of self-incompleteness. Such wisdom. And I really can't claim that wisdom. The wisdom came from other sources. It came from this mostly Eckhart Tolle stuff, but also, Course in Miracles stuff, and also the Esther Hicks. I can't recommend that enough. Abraham Hicks, essentially. So we get. I want to be just frank about this. A lot of my journey in the last few months, like in the last year, so like really presently, not some like right this second, I'm kind of winding down from it. But in the last year, my inquiry has been letting myself be desire led in a way that encompasses all that I'm talking about. Letting my desires kind of be a fuel for me rather than like be a carrot dangling out in front of me. Letting my desires be something that I possess, letting it fulfill, letting the desire itself fill me rather than what it is I'm desiring. Does that make sense? Like, I'm allowing this thing to drive me forward. I'm allowing this thing, keyword allowing. I'm all about allowing, right? Letting this thing let my life be like the thing that lets the lotus petal open rather than me trying to pry the lotus or pick the lotus for myself. Not trying to always get the thing, but like kind of allowing the desire to kind of have its own life with or without me. I gotta say, there's been so many things that I've had a difficult time manifesting in my life that have just come right on in the moment that I start going, you know what? I'm just going to let this desire be. I'm not going to fight it. I'm not going to create this like chaperone dynamic with it and try to cleanse myself of it. I'm just going to let this desire be. And I'm going to let it factor in a conscious way. I'm not going to go completely after it. I'm not going to chase it, but I am going to say, okay, desire is starting to well up in me as I'm making this choice. And this requires a lot of self like awareness, a lot of really careful pacing, deep self-awareness to be able to be like what it is. I think it comes from that question that I mentioned earlier is like, what it is do I perceive myself to lack right now that I can fill myself with in this decision, rather than being like, I'm going after that thing I want and there being some kind of barrier, right? So there's a lot of nuance here. I'm not entirely sure that I'm grasping it, but I'm trying to share this as best as I can, how it's working for me and working in me. So James says, I thought I recognized a bit of Eckhart. Yeah, there's definitely always going to be a bit of Eckhart in everything that I say. And he says, could desire be viewed as a feeling and therefore keep it as a friend to ourselves to cling to? But notice, yeah, that's a great way of looking at like an emotion. That's emotion that needs to be kind of put outside of ourselves and looked at and examined, maybe make art about it. God, I'm always saying that to my clients, make art about it, write a poem about it. Definitely could be viewed as like an emotion. I think I love that, James. What a great thing to bring into this. Yes, that's a really great way of putting it and viewing it.
Well, and one thing too, I just want to circle back, April, because I thought it was really good. Like, because you've talked about before how you really hold your beliefs loosely. We've talked about beliefs,
Mm-hmm.
which kind of ties into a lot of this topic too. But you hold it with a loose, and it sounds like you kind of are doing the same approach with your desires too. You're just kind of holding them loosely, letting them be. They're there for a reason. Kind of trying to explore why they're there for you and what they might be filling in, what gaps they might be filling in, or
Mm-hmm.
whatever that you could fill in yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I'm really taking away from. Those are the key points I'm really taking away from what you've shared here. I
Yeah.
also love that James brought it in as being viewed as a feeling.
Yeah.
And last week we talked about how you know in certain frameworks that I work with, all feelings are good feelings when they're based on accurate perception, and they're
Mm-hmm.
there to motivate us to get it to meet an unmet need, want, or desire, right?
That's
So
right.
you can kind
That's
of view
right.
desire that through that same exact lens, and I think that's helpful. But one thing that I encountered in preparing for this is that desire is really a form of kind of cognition, and we can kind of view it in the same manner here. Um, I don't want to keep us too long from the hypnotic meditation because I do kind of uh, weave in what you've talked about here, April, with a little bit of what I'm thinking right now, but this paradox of desire. I don't
Right.
know if you encountered that, this in Buddhist thought, this paradox of desire, how there's a desire not to desire that is a desire. And so, how do you be desireless? That's the paradox of desire,
Yeah, that's
right?
kind of like a chaperone thing. Yeah.
Yeah, right, right.
Hmm. Yeah.
So, viewing it as, a form of cognition, there's sort of a right knowledge aspect to this too, if we want to look at this through a Buddhist lens, that, we might have all kinds of behaviors happen in our life that are based on a misconception,
Right.
like literally like a flawed thinking about something. And if we
Oh,
can only
yeah.
kind of realize like our
Hmm.
misconception about it, then the kind of the whole issue can resolve itself. That's one thing that I found here with this this paradox of desire. If we view desire as a feeling, as James suggested, it's
Hmm.
there for a reason to help to motivate us to meet an unmet need, want, or desire, which is kind of what you were
Yes.
saying. Like, what is that
Yes,
behind it,
totally, and I
right?
found that to be true, and it's sort of
Yeah.
like creates this massive opening for all the things that you need in life to just come forward, and if
Hmm.
I'm doing it with that flavor that Bear mentioned of just kind of acknowledging that I am already whole and that have a lot to be grateful for, that I don't know, it just really does create this giant receptacle for everything that I need and everything that comes up. I don't know, my dynamic with lack, if I'm really in acknowledgement of it and I'm just really balancing that with gratitude, I tend to get what I need whenever I need it. And I will also wanted to bring in a couple comments, and then I want to have a closing thought that is, the surprise twist in all of this. Always is one. D the Wolf says, I feel like I hold back from desire due to the guilt of making myself a priority as opposed to what's good for the family, friends, etc. I feel like I'm finally learning how to put myself first sometimes. That's definitely worth bringing into this field, D the Wolf, because it is really kind of part of my own journey as well. Like the idea that I said I'm being desire led is that I'm kind of rebalancing that exact guilt that you're talking about. I'm in the process of rebalancing, going like, okay, it's okay to want things. It's not okay to just like be in a Spartan dynamic with myself and say that, everything that I want is bad just because I want it. Like I said, that just that creates that chaperone, and it creates what Tim talked about, like the desire to not have desire. and then um and then James says desire could be healthy, eros, creativity, passion for self-expression, self-love. Yes, desiring these things that are good and juicy for ourselves. That's what you usually will discover when you start asking why it is what you want. And Bear says that the distinction between needs and desires is important. And I will say to that, what I'm learning about in peace studies, when you're talking about negotiating things and like talking about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, that hierarchy is extremely fluid. Needs and desires. Sometimes the things that we think that we want end up being something that we super need. Like community ended up being that thing for me. Like the idea that I don't need anybody, I don't want anybody in my life, but then actually realizing, oh my gosh, I really need people in my life. I need community. Actually, Bear, you're the reason that you're like the manifestation of that. Like I need community, and then Bear just pops into my life. So there we go. So that's how that came about, actually, is through that journey, is this particular friendship that we've got right here in the fold right here. And I'm so grateful for that. I'm so grateful for that. Like if you only knew like just how important that particular journey has been, like the idea of desire for community versus need for community, ended up with that very friendship. And then,
Yeah.
I think I'll end on this note because it ties really well. It goes really well segue wise into hypnosis. But dreamwork has been instrumental in this pathway for me, because if I didn't look at what my subconscious had to say about it every single night of my life, like my favorite TV show in the whole wide world, the thing I love to binge watch the most is my dreams. Yeah. It's not on Netflix. It's not on streaming. It's right here when I go to sleep. Favorite TV show. Favorite one is the one that gets projected into my brain at night when I'm asleep. And that tells me everything I need to know about why I desire, what I desire, and why. If I'm really paying, a way to pay attention to that is to do it every single day and watch the trajectory, watch the patterns. It's not just one dream that's going to give you all the answers. It's the continuity of themes. It's the continuity of people and the way that they appear in your dreams and emotions. The most important thing of all is the way that our emotions, the way we respond to the things and the people that we see in our dreams and the places too. One more final comment. Yay from Bear. I couldn't agree more. And then I'll just turn it over to you, Tim, because we could talk about desire all night long.
Oh, sure. Well, and just something you just said there. Well, we could talk about it all I know. Let's get to a hypnotic meditation, you guys.
Great.
If you want to join me for a hypnotic meditation, I'm going to try to keep this one fairly brief for us. I mean, in terms of brief and entering into a hypnotic state of consciousness, experts tell us that it requires about 8 minutes to enter into a deep hypnotic state. So take that for whatever it's worth. We'll try to make this around 8 minutes or so. So go ahead and settle into participate. Settle into a comfortable position with a straight spine. Uncross your legs. Take off your glasses. Just get really comfortable. Somewhere you're going to be undisturbed, and you can really just focus in on my words for a few minutes. And as you settle in, just get yourself comfortable. Just a few words about desire from a Buddhist perspective. We kind of talked about this, but if we view if we have the view that desire breeds suffering, that we might make some errors in our life. We might make some actions that are not the right actions based on wanting self can cause suffering. But what April was getting at, the why do we have the desire? That's what we're going to explore a little bit here. And hypnosis is a revealing process. We never know what's going to bubble up from the subconscious mind into our conscious awareness. So we're going to play with that a little bit here, just a sample of the kind of deeper work that we might do in a one-on-one session in kind of a fun setting here. So settle in, and I first would like you to take your attention to a point of light gaze. Your eyes are going to be upturned a little bit, and as you take a deep breath in, really eagle eye the spot and look at every little detail, the color, the shadows, all the nuances. And as you take your next deep exhalation, as you breathe out, look through that spot with a relaxed gaze. And you might start to notice the corners of the room. And when you're ready, go ahead and close your eyes and relax. Good. Now relax your jaw. And as you do, it's going to come open slightly, but you're sending a signal to every muscle, cell, and nerve in your body that now is the time to relax. And there's nothing to do right now but to just relax even further and focus on the sound of my words as I guide you. Slow down your breathing now. Get into a really comfortable, slow rhythm of breathing with a long exhalation. Just push all of the air out of your lungs now. Good. And just get into a slow, comfortable rate of breathing. Now relax the back of your tongue. This is a curious suggestion. We're often there's a part of us that's preparing to respond, preparing to speak. If you can relax the back of your tongue, we'll decouple that part of your mind that's always preparing to speak, allowing your mind to have new thoughts. or expansive thoughts. Now, drop your consciousness into your heart. Whatever that means to you, safe, comfortable, maybe not our head brain, but you're dropping your consciousness into your heart. And take your attention to the surface beneath you, a sense of gravity that's gently holding you up, holding you to the earth. And as you focus on this sensation of being held gently by gravity, you feel even more and more settled, more and more comfortably relaxed into the earth. And as you take in your next deep breath, focus again on this feeling of gravity, and it helps you send your awareness down into the earth, layer by layer, down, all the way down to the very center of the earth. You are in harmony with the pulse of the planet, bringing some of that harmony up through the layers of the earth, back up now, up into your body, up through the top of your head, up out into the very center of the universe, as up and as out as you want to send your awareness now, into the realm of inspiration, insight, protection. And now bring your awareness back down into your body to this balance point of the heart, where we're really able to have the nurturing, grounded energy of the earth commingle with the spirit and the divine energy of heaven. As you take in a deep breath, just settle in on that horizon point of your heart, feeling at once grounded and supported and open to inspiration. Good. Now, imagine a warm, golden light surrounding your body. It's filling every cell of you, infusing every cell of your being with an even deeper sense of peace and tranquility, almost weightless. As you get a sense of this golden light, send that golden light with a wave of relaxation all the way from the top of your head to the bottom of your feet. 1, 2, 3. And as you get a sense of this golden light infusing your whole being, bring your attention to a sense of spaciousness all around you. It's almost as if you can't tell where you begin and the rest of the world begins. Feeling this golden light throughout your being, washing away any last bits of stress or tension, leaving you in a state of even deeper relaxation and stillness. And as you slow your rate of breathing even further, even more slow and relaxed breaths, you can notice just how still your body and your mind can become. And you get just still enough to start to feel the flow of life all around you. It's warm, it's living. Drop back into that flow now. Just let go into that flow and really feel it. As you take your attention back to that sense of spaciousness, that comfortable, almost floating sensation, you now become aware of something that you desire in your life. Whatever comes up right now in your mind is just right. Something that you desire in your life. We all have desires. There's something you desire in your life that you're thinking about now. And in your mind's eye, you notice a house that represents this desire. Just notice the house. What is it? How does it appear? What do you notice about the house? Maybe there's a color, maybe it's the condition of the house. Just notice whatever comes up here. Now, keeping in mind that there's something that you desire, this house represents that desire. As you take a few steps closer to the house, you have an understanding that there's a reason this desire is in your mind. There's a reason you want this thing. There's a deeper reason why you want this situation in your life. There's a reason this thing might serve you or not serve you. But as we take a few steps closer to this house that represents your desire, you notice the front door. What do you see about the front door? Is there a color? What's the condition of it? And as we take a step even further right up to the door, we're just about to open the front door, but not yet, because behind the door is one of the best reasons why you have this desire in your mind right now. So go ahead and open the door. What's behind the door? What do you see there? Let your mind's eye reveal to you one of the best reasons you have this desire in your life. What do you notice? And let's say you have reached this desire, you have obtained what you desire. What are you thinking? And what does it make you feel? What can this desire help you do? So now that you have this thing in your life, this situation, what can you now do? And standing in this house that represents your desire, the final question is, do you want it? Ask yourself now. Good. Now, in a moment, I'm going to count from 1 to 3. We're going to exit this house and emerge from a hypnotic meditation with a little more insight into your desires. 1, stepping out of the house now and closing that front door. 2, taking a few steps away from that house, seeing it from a distance. You've found something interesting about it. And 3, opening your eyes right back here with us on Subconscious Sundays, feeling great.
Awesome.
Thank you for joining
Loved
me.
it. Yeah, that was really good. And I mean, Tim's my bestie, so he knows what that was all, how that was all playing out in my head, at least what the desire was. And I still learn, I still
Yeah,
have so much to learn about that. And it's, there has to be some, but it is something that we can dig something out of and get a lot from. And I wanted to kind of reflect back to something when we mentioned what Don had said about how he has to be more practical now and he has to think about necessity and necessity alone in his condition. And I found this, I had found it before, and I wanted to kind of like dovetail that also with the mention of like feeling guilty about the thing, about going after the things that you want, because there's so many other priorities, family, children, spouses, household things, and it's guilty to have selfishness, right? And of course you can go back and watch previous episodes how sacred it is sometimes to be selfish. But I want to mention that this is from the 5 Regrets of the Dying by Bronnie Ware. And this is something that was brought to my attention in seminary class. But the top 5 regrets of the dying are as follows. I'm going to read them from 5th to 1st. I wish I had let myself be happier. I wish I had stayed in touch with my friends. I wish I'd had the courage to express my feelings. I wish I hadn't worked so hard. And the number one, and this is from somebody who has been with the dying, been someone who's dying. Number one thing, I wish I'd had the courage to live a life true to myself, not the life others expected of me. So not only is desire sacred, it's something that you might not always have the ability to interact with. It's a privilege to have it. It's a privilege to be able to pursue it. And it is also quite seriously one of the reasons we're here. Because in those final moments, it could very well be that you didn't interact with your desire as you would have wished. So sorry to leave you such a bummer. but the show is just, it's a potentially heavy topic, but it's just something I want to leave as an impression upon you all, that our desires are important. They matter. Anything you'd like to add, Tim?
No, I think that I really appreciate your well-rounded look at this topic, and I think it's easy for me to take this ascetic kind of view of this Buddhist idea that desires bad, right?
Mm-hmm.
But there is an element that I've learned here, a sacred element to our desires, and I think it's all about the right way of thinking about how it's serving us.
Right.
Right.
Right. Well, and real quickly before we go, I just wanted to also mention, if there's hypnosis or my being with you one-on-one as your sacred witness to your journey, if there's something that we can provide to you in this vein, don't hesitate to reach out. We put the link to each of our systems in every description of every video that we make, in the live and in the rewatch. So discuss with us and you want to discuss the potential of working with us on an ongoing basis, click either one of those links to speak with me or Tim. If you want to work with both of us, click either link and we will make that happen for you. And it's no obligation, no charge for that first interaction with us on that. So just click away, set up some time for us to talk. We love to work with you. Do you want to add anything to that, Tim?
No, thank you. If you guys are finding that you want to dive a little deeper and kind of discover, like April talked about, dreamwork, I highly recommend dreamwork with April, because it's both empowering when you can start to see patterns in your own dreams, but then it's really good to have a guide along the way to help you with that. So if you need a guide with your subconscious mind, let us know.
We're here for you. Thanks so much for being with us today. Loved all the comments. Keep them coming, and we'll see you in a couple weeks. We're off next week, but we'll see you with our show on gratitude in 2 weeks from today. Look forward to it.